You have questions? America's #1 business coach has answers. It's your Broda from Minnesota. Here's another edition of Ask Clay Anything on the Thrive Time Business Coach Radio Show.
Yes, and Wes Carter, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm amazing. How are you, Clay?
Man, I'm excited to have you on the show here. You, for the listeners out there that aren't familiar with you and what you do, can you explain to the Thrive Nation who you are, what you do, just to get kind of orientated with your professionalism?
Yeah, I'm an attorney here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Our law firm is Winners and King, and the firm has been around since the 80s, and we kind of have a niche in the for-profit and non-profit world, but kind of known for our practice in the religious space with mega churches and media ministries and large religious organizations all over the world.
We have some tough questions from the Thrive Nation here, but before we get into our disclaimer, before we get into the questions, I want to ask you,
music.
because you work at a firm that's been around since the 80s. That has represented some huge clients over the years.
Yes.
I want to ask you the hard-hitting question to start here. Okay, so here we go.
All right.
What is your stance on wood paneling on the walls? Are you in favor? Are you against? Because the wood, it's the 80s. It's like the 80s that was hot. Wood paneling was hot. Then there was a time where you kind of went in the 90s and it got hotter. And then 2000 it stopped. And now it's creeping back into the cultural conversation. So what's your stance on wood paneling? And don't give me a politically correct answer.
No, I'm anti-wood paneling.
Really?
Even if you're like the white plank boards you see, whatever they call that.
Shiplap?
Shiplap.
You're against shiplap?
Holy cow!
Unbelievable.
Unless you're in a log cabin and you've got split tree trunks on your wall to make it look cool, I'm anti-wood walls.
So you're saying unless you're at a log cabin with logs in your cabin,
right?
You don't want to do that.
Right.
Okay. Now, my next question, it gets a little more intense from here, folks. Get ready. Okay, so how to protect your LLC.
Okay.
Remember the Thrive Nation, asks us the question. They said, how do I protect my LLC? Now, before you can answer the question, give us your legal blurb, my friend, as I get ready to pontificate with the megaphone.
Well, we always tell our listeners, that me coming on the radio show, the podcast, is not substitute for you to go get your own attorney get actual legal advice for your specific situation.
Right.
And just because you listen to me on the radio or a podcast does not mean that you're my client or that I'm your attorney.
That's true. Don't say Wes is my attorney. Don't say that because I'm a freaking megaphone and I don't want to have to crank up the volume on this show.
That's right. So go get your own attorney. Find some good advice from someone who knows what they're talking about.
That's right. And also, I'll be just so the listeners out there know, I am not Wes's official hype man. I don't get, but I do tend to want to follow him around with a megaphone.
Yeah.
It's me and 3 really buff guys. And we follow him around, and we have earpieces in, and then Wes will come in there during some potential litigation conversations, like at Research or Quick Trip. He might say something like, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I get the paper? I don't want the plastic." We would say, "That's right."
We don't want to get into the litigiousness.
Very familiar circumstance. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how do you protect your LLC?
Well, once you've set up the LLC, it's very important to, I like to describe it as, treat it with respect. You have to treat it like it's a separate entity. You don't want to mix your personal money with the LLC money. You don't want to be paying your bills out of the LLC, your lights, your utilities. You don't want to be using it like a piggy bank, just pulling money out willy-nilly whenever you want it. So that's the most important way you can protect yourself as far as limiting your liability to inside the LLC and not having your personal stuff get mixed in with
And
it.
I've got a lot of other little ones I've seen over the years as a business coach there. Mm-hmm. And so I want you to kind of help me break down the truthiness of these stories here. One is, you got to file every year, it's like $25 to keep that LLC active. There's probably a legal word for this, but what happens if you're saying, $25? I mean, come on. It's $1 million business, man. Listen, okay, I'm paying an attorney this, I got that. I ain't got time for a $25 fee. What happens?
Yeah, every state's a little different, but you usually have to file an annual report, and there's some sort of fee that goes with it. And if you don't file it, the state will revoke your LLC or your corporation, and you will not have standing to defend a lawsuit, to bring a lawsuit, to do all kinds of fun stuff, that your LLC or corporation will be dead.
That's right.
Next thing, you have an LLC. Your business is called, make it up an example. Your company is called hypothetically, I'm looking for a name. Andrew, I'm trying to think of a name. Your company is called Living Water Irrigation. This is because you are a show sponsor, and you're here inside the studio today. In my mind, I'm picturing somebody out there like this. Josh, are you here? Are you here, Josh?
Hello.
Okay, Josh, one of our show sponsors here at Living Water Irrigation. Sir, is Living Water Irrigation actually the name of your company?
That is correct.
Okay, this just in. A lot of listeners say, I have to put my LLC on my card. Now, I'm not saying Josh has ever said this. I'm just saying people Josh knows say, Josh, listen here, buddy. As your non-legal advisor, fellow chamber member, from chamber member to chamber member, I will tell you, my company, and again, if you're out there and your name is Doug, and your name is Doug's Painting LLC, I don't know anyone in Tulsa with that name, so I'm sure there's somebody. Here's the deal. Somehow I've become Bostonian. So here's the freaking deal, Josh. I want you to know as a fellow chamber member, if you don't put your name with your business, like you put on it, because my name is Doug, and it's Doug's LLC. That's my name of my company, Doug's Painting LLC. You see my shirt? It says Doug's Painting LLC. My signs say it. I got my vans that say. If you don't put the LLC, the comma LLC, your business, you've pierced the veil of the corporate protection and you're screwed for life. Put the LLC on there. Wes, what would you say?
You don't have to put the comma LLC on every single thing, especially some marketing materials, but you do have to be careful to hold yourself out to make it clear to the public that you're doing business as a corporation or an LLC, not an individual. But that doesn't mean that every single shirt you have to have has to have, you can have a logo without putting LLC or incorporation on it. But your contracts, usually there's a disclaimer on the bottom of your website. You do need to hold yourself out as a corporate entity separate from yourself. But not every little piece of swag you put together has to have the LLC on it.
You can put a disclaimer at the bottom of your website, and if you're the younger spectrum of the millennial generation, you could just put a disclaimer on your bottom.
That's true. You could do that.
Not only is it true, it probably is more likely than not. Think about that. There's a certain stamped disclaimer there that you're going to find. Anyway, back to you. Well, back to you, Wes. Recover from that. No, another question people ask a lot of times about their LLC is they'll say, I have a silo. I've created a shell corporation.
Yeah.
And I put my LLC underneath that. So I've got a shell. We'll call it company. Imagine this org chart, Thrive Nation, okay? And imagine at the top of this pyramid, there's company A. That's the shell. Company B is doing business with the shell. It's a payroll company for company C that does business. So the company C does business with the market. Company C does business with the payroll company. And the payroll company, yes, it does business with the shell company. ABC. It's easy as ABC. Why is that? Because you see this all the time.
Yeah.
And then it's not correct. It's not filed properly. People are like, and that's why my employees are all contractors. Talk to me about the jackassery you've seen with all these shells and half set up, half baked ideas. People watching too many infomercials.
Yeah, I mean, commonly, there are ways you can structure your corporations or your LLCs to help silo different liabilities. But the problem is most people have one set of books. They don't have 5 different sets of books. They don't have 5 different sets of payroll. Like we talked about treating it with respect earlier, they try to set up this complicated structure, have no idea what they're doing, or don't have the time or the willpower to duplicate all of their administrative obligations 5 or 6 times to actually do it properly. So if you're not going to do it properly, you're wasting time and money, because you could just do one LLC and spend that money for better insurance, to increase your policy
or
limits.
Any insurance would be great for some folks out there.
Right.
But
there are certain times if you have, a particularly risky part of your business, you want to put it off into a separate entity and, like the product manufacturing as opposed to our services, there are legitimate reasons to set these kinds of things up, but you need to tread very carefully how you set it up and how they interact with each other.
Now, the most common legal mistakes entrepreneurs make. A Thriver emails in. They want to know, what are the most common legal mistakes you see entrepreneurs make? Now, you probably have a massive list.
So many to choose from.
Right, but I'll just give you the floor. You say a maximum of 5.
Okay. One you've already referenced is employees versus contractors. Everybody wants to
That's
say,
right. He's freaking Wes Carter.
Yeah.
He's freaking right. Back to you, Wes.
So that can have dire consequences when you misclassify a worker as an independent contractor as opposed to an employee. So that's a common mistake. Another one is they just assume because they register a DBA with the state, which is an assumed name.
Doing business as.
Right. That somehow that's an LLC or a corporation or those are the same things. And all that means is it's still you. You just have permission to use another name as your alter ego.
You see this with rappers all the time.
Yeah.
Rappers have to start going by a certain name. Seriously, you see this a lot. And a lot of rappers have those taxes screwed up because no one sits down and talks to them about this stuff. And like, just because you're going by the nickname Little Smokey doesn't mean that you don't have to pay taxes just because you were paid at the concert in cash.
Right.
Little Smokey. Is that your real name, sir? That kind of thing. So it's really important that the DBA thing, you're not casual. You got to make sure you form that LLC. Wes, what does it cost to form an LLC? Are we talking about millions?
No. I mean, even with the attorney's fees, filing fees to put the whole thing together, all the documents, it's under $1,000.
Really?
Yeah. So
what's mistake number 3, Wes?
Probably signing contracts without reading them. I mean, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that will just stick their signature on whatever you put in front of their face.
Bada bing.
And so whether it's a lease or it's a vendor contract.
Dude, listen, let's go into leases real quick.
All right.
Every time I've given you a lease agreement to review,
Yeah.
I think it was probably 4 so far. I think we had Elephant in the Room.
Yeah.
We had South. We had the River Walk. I think there's a few things. But do you not always catch something?
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Everything's negotiable. The first draft you see is going to normally be very favorable to the landlord. And then you can go back and ask for changes because they want your money. And
right.
So that's what a lot of people just don't understand. Even as a new entrepreneur, you have bargaining power because they're going to be taking your money for 5 years, 10 years, and you have to be very careful because you could end up stuck in a 10-year lease that, if the business doesn't gain traction and you sign a personal guarantee, you and your family are going to have to come up with that money for the next 10 years. You
could live in the building.
You might have to.
That could be the strategy.
To not go bankrupt, yeah.
So if you're out there, I just encourage you, again, if you're thinking about moving into a building, have somebody look at that lease. I remember one of the leases you helped me out with. I think it was the Broken Arrow Elephant in the Room. I think it was so. Broken Arrow. And it was something like on the air conditioning, in there, the way it was worded, it was like if the air conditioning unit went out, we would have to pay for it.
Right.
And it was those air conditioning units. I mean, I have no idea what those cost.
Crazy expensive.
Like I know they're over $100,000.
Yeah.
So if you're paying like a $4,000 a month lease and the AC goes out, you go, well, guys, you want to sweat it out or sweat it out?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you sweat it out and not get the AC, that's bad. But imagine if the average listener out there coming up with $100,000.
Oh,
I mean,
easy.
that's not a move. So again, I would just, Wes, do you have another common mistake? Maybe one more where you go, this right here, if people would just stop doing this.
Yeah, I think especially at the startup phase is not doing any due diligence at all, any research into the name you're going to use. So I have a lot of people that come to me 6 months, a year down the road after they've done all the marketing, the SEO, followed all the process and procedures, only to find out that there's some giant corporation that has a trademark for that name. They get a cease and desist letter, and now they have to start from scratch building their brand and repay to redo all those materials. And it's a nightmare for a small business owner to have to go through that process. So just a little bit of due diligence. I mean, even Googling if you can't afford an attorney, but looking into what other uses of that name are out there can save a lot of money and heartache.
I have a listener out there right now thinking about a name change of their business based in McKinney. Andrew, right, McKinney?
That's true. Yep.
And these people are thinking about changing the name. If they wanted to call you to look into, can I use this name?
Yeah.
And the new name might be named after an animal, okay?
Okay.
If they, how much would it cost to check? Maybe they give you 4 or 5 names and say, please check.
Well, I can do quick cursory searches, in a matter of minutes. The trademark office has a website where we can look pretty easily. And then once we dial it down to 1 or 2, we'll order a in-depth search. It usually runs $200 to $300, and it'll give us all the federal trademarks, all the state trademarks, all the domain names, all the corporate registrations in the entire country. So you can see, more information than you're ever going to want to actually read through, but we can get a ton of information so you make an educated decision before you start sinking money into marketing and billboards and signage.
So we're talking maybe $500 or $500 total to avoid what could potentially be a $500,000 snafu
easily.
Of branding in the future. I mean,
Yes.
so it's like a $500 thing.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're out there today and you've not checked nationally about the usage of your company name, look out.
Yeah, because if you ever want to grow, you may be able to have the rights in Arkansas, but if you want to come over to Oklahoma, well, tough luck, buddy, because someone filed, even if they started using the name after you, their federal trademark is going to trump your prior use in a different state.
Did you say Trump?
Trump.
Really? Okay. Huh.
Trump.
Well, a lot of times on the show, I mean, you're kind of more apolitical, but I feel like that was like it's kind of a Trump-tastic quote there. I noticed you didn't say, like, if you want to Obama the competition, do this. But you said Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Next time, to be fair, I'll say Hillary.
Yeah, why don't you weave in a Hillary reference throughout the show here? Now, Josh, do you have a question for Mr. Wes?
Yeah, just to go back to something, Wes, because I know a lot of us contractors, even some maybe in this room at this given time, maybe at some point,
Andrew,
paid everybody 1099 because everybody was a subcontractor.
Oh.
Now, not me, not Living Water Irrigation.
No, Andrew. Andrew, no, look, although you do not have a business we know about your shell corporation based in Latvia, and we're on to you. Back to you, Josh.
So could you please destroy that myth however legally you can right now, that you can't just 1099 everybody? I have a bunch of friends that have companies and they're like, yeah, everybody's 1099.
Yeah, so the IRS and at the state level as well, but I mean the IRS, everyone kind of follows their guidance to some degree, has very specific criteria what an employee is versus what a contractor, an independent contractor is, and they really evolve around how the level of control you have over the worker. And so if you're telling someone when to show up, how to do their job, when they can go home, you're going to use my tools to do the job. I mean, those are employees. The longer the relationship, more often that's an employee as opposed to a contractor. If they're not working for other people, they're only working for you, leans towards employee. So it's like a checklist where you're trying to figure out that check more boxes in this category or this category. But I think the important thing to know is if you do it wrong, now you have an employee that you might have overtime claims, minimum wage claims. As an employer, you're doing withholdings. And if you don't do the withholdings, they can have the taxing authority, whether that's the state or the IRS, not only make you pay what you should have withheld, but what they should have withheld out of their check as well. And many of these kinds of claims are double and triple damages plus attorney's fees. So, I mean, these turn into nightmare scenarios when you don't get this right. And all's good until one of your employees gets ticked off and decides, light bulb moment.
You know, Andrew, I hate to do this to Andrew on the show because Andrew's a great guy. He saves, 35% of your income, Andrew, right?
Yes, sir.
You've been married for about a year?
Yep.
No criminal violations?
So far.
No, he's married
Never got caught.
Married for a year, right?
Yeah.
Great guy. He never got into trouble. We worked at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Then for Epic Photography, then here. I mean, just a great record. And I would hate to spread rumors or gossip about his Latvia-based Ponzi scheme.
Okay.
Like I said, not yet.
But I do have what some believe, and I say some, and I can't name names. Some believe that this is his audio of his phone being tapped.
Uh-oh.
So we're in a state, Oklahoma, where you can record calls.
One-party state, that's
okay.
right.
So I'm going to cue up the audio of what we believe to be you talking to your team of contractors before today's show when you discover that you can't misclassify everyone as a contractor. Okay, so we have the. I'm gonna cue it up. No, don't react until you've heard the entirety of the clip because we know it's you and you've done one of those voice altering things. So it's like, this is not me. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna cue it up here. Here we go.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
Andrew, what say you?
I believe I have the right to remain silent.
Yeah, and he also has the right to allege that that's a scene from Airplane. But the point is, the point is, Wes, the point is, if you're misclassifying all your employees, you got to get it fixed.
Yeah, and you need to be careful and walk through that with an attorney who knows that kind of law specifically, because you don't want to just jump out and say, hey, guys, I've been screwing up all this time, so please don't sue me. I mean, you
wouldn't want to call the IRS and say, hey, you make me want to shoot and then hang up. You know, they're gonna catch on.
So you have to do that very delicately.
Hey, yeah. Okay, now the next question the Thrive Nation has, and I get this question every day, and I want you to settle it right here on the show. Settle it, okay? I'll get my hype man megaphone ready so we can subtly deliver this tip.
Subtly, I like that.
With the megaphone. Our non-competes. By the way, I've been using this megaphone for I use this megaphone to wake up my kids.
I bet they love you for that.
Oh, yeah, I do. I announce dinner. I announce it's time to wake up, time to go to bed. The kids just love me. It's really going over well. So I've been using this at funerals lately, too, as a way to give like
you called me earlier using the megaphone.
I've really been trying to, it's a great when you give a eulogy with a megaphone. People respect you more. Okay, so the question is, are non-competes actually enforceable ever?
Sometimes. It's becoming
pretty vague there, buddy.
Yeah, and that's why every state has different rules. So it varies. Some states say absolutely not.
That's right.
Some states say yes.
That's right.
And many states are somewhere in between.
I don't get it.
Yeah. So
All right.
the rule with non-competes is because the courts and states are becoming less and less favorable towards non-competes.
Can I explain to the listeners why?
Yes, please.
I'd like to tee this up. There is a book written by a Thrive Time Show guest that I've read called The Free Agent Economy.
Yes.
Have you read The Free Agent Economy?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Okay. Well, Andrew, please look up the average length of employment for the average American employee.
Got it.
I want you to look that up real quick. How long is the average American employee? How long is the average American employed somewhere? The Free Agent Economy is a book by Daniel Pink, and I've read the book, and let me just kind of cue up to you what it's about. It's called Free Agent Nation. Free Agent Nation, the future of working for yourself. What happens is we are in a time, we'll call it, Wes, do you remember when the economy was rocking in Tulsa before the Great Recession? Do you remember that when we were just rocking? That,
yes.
Oil and gas, there was a lot of energy.
Construction, everything was going great.
I think Williams was a huge employer at the
Yes.
time. Who else was a big player at that time? I feel like Williams was rocking. There was the large debt collection service in Tulsa. Bartlett's, what was the gentleman's name? Was it Bartlett? Who was the gentleman?
Was it CFS?
CFS.
Yes.
What was the guy's name?
I believe it was.
He's a billionaire.
Yes.
But he was doing great. Oh, the Williams was doing great. But a lot of companies are doing great. Well, then the economy corrected and shifted, and a lot of these big companies contracted. Mm-hmm. And then now companies can grow so fast because all these people can now invest. Like you and I have mutual funds, and there's ways we can invest. So companies can get big real fast.
Yes.
Think about this. Facebook, how old was Zuckerberg when he started Facebook, and how quickly did he become a billionaire? An article came out the other day about the Kardashian being the youngest female to become a billionaire. It's like before the age of 24, she did it using just social media and her makeup line. So, I mean, you can really pump up a company quickly. You can get big quick now.
Yeah.
But you can also contract quick. So the recession wiped people out. Then you get big quick. So there's a lot of people out there trying to become self-employed, or as a result of being laid off, they're becoming self-employed. The technology's cheaper. Computers are cheaper. It's easier to start a company. It's the easiest time in American history to start a company. How long does the average American keep a job?
Forbes is saying for the average American, not just millennials, but American, is 4.6 years.
So people are getting, in their career, 10 to 15 different jobs.
Yeah.
So if you block somebody out from the only thing that they know how to do, it can be argued in court they can't earn a living.
Exactly, and that's the whole public policy behind it is you shouldn't be able to prevent me from feeding my family and practicing whatever my profession is. Whatever the skills that I've gained, I need to be able to utilize those to earn a living. So many states, you can still enforce, you can't steal my clients,
Yep.
You can't steal my confidential information, but it's becoming very difficult to say you can't go do the same job you're doing for me, for someone else, or for yourself.
Well, there you have it, folks. Those are the answers to your legal questions from Wes Carter, who's an attorney that I certainly can't legally endorse. I can't say he's the best. I can't say he's my favorite. I can say I pay you, right?
You do pay me.
For legal services.
I can be your favorite. That's fine.
I can be bitter about it. I'm not, but I could be, right? I mean, I can't say you're the best, but I'm just saying that I do use you.
You do.
Right, and I have a lot of listeners know I have low standards. So it could be because he's just
true.
available,
Yeah.
or it could be because he's the best. You don't know. I can't go out there and go on a limb. But Wes Carter is an attorney. I can say that. He is an attorney. And go to his website, wintersking.com, if you need an attorney. We end every show with a boom. 3, 2, 1, boom.